Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM22. It's Youth Factory. This is episode 62. We prepare for a new season. We begin with the intake. As always, it's an excellent one, but none of the players are standing out necessarily, as 2 stars seems to be the highest current rating of any of them, though of course there are plenty of premier talents. The good talents will almost certainly not make the cut. You would think the top talents would struggle to as well, so we might have about 8 new players, give or take, based on their potential. I'm going to very quickly try to make my way through this season. Here's where things stand. We are in a position where, after we were gifted our endowment for the youth for the year by Edun, we are $1 million better off than we were the year before. So once the youth stuff, the setup was all taken care of, we improved our balance by $1 million. But as we ran through last season, it only took a few months to get to a negative balance. But that negative balance ended up, by the end of the year, right about $1 million. So in theory, this year, we should finish the year closer to a neutral balance, though the setup costs, even though we are in the same tier, are a little bit higher this year. Why? I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know how they're working behind the scenes, but we make more money and they charge us more money. We just can't seem to win when it comes to those finances. But anyway, in theory, when that's all taken care of, we'll be in a position where we should be closer to about 2.5 million come next season. And maybe finally then the board will actually heed our requests for improved training facilities or to go professional, whichever the case may be. Those are the 2 main things that we have been pushing for and have been unable to get thus far, including this year with the new turnaround in finances. So maybe next year is the year for that. But that means this year is, let's fly on through and, not worry about much, because we seem to be comfortably mid-table through development. We are getting slightly better, and we haven't been losing players. Oh, wait, maybe this is the year that we actually lose a player. One key player, Oleberg. Hakan Oleberg, now 18 years of age, is a hot favorite to be gone here very soon. Now, he's only, 5th, 6th best for us, but now that he's played 70 appearances and has 5 goals and, is still quite young, suddenly he is every top division side want him, and they are offering us lots of money pretty much daily, slightly more day by day. The daily offers are between 150 and 300,000. We haven't topped the 300,000 yet, but I have a feeling that that's coming. We still have close to a month till the transfer deadline day, so if they're already offering us 300,000, I have a feeling that those offers are going to climb to the point where the board will eventually settle on it. Hopefully, we're talking minimum 500,000. I'm hoping for more than $1 million, as that would actually have an impact on our finances, short and long term, and maybe we can achieve those goals if the board finally accepts a deal worth $1 million or more, because we know the moment he goes to the top division side, his value is going to increase from the 3,500 that he's worth at the moment to far more than that. For me, this actually might be a good time to maybe offer him a improved contract and increase his value, but even at 14,000 a year, which we really can't afford to go much more than that, he still only apparently has a value of 3,000. But that's also in part because his contract ends next year. He's down into the last 2 years of his contract, so they want to get him now. If we extend that contract a couple more years, maybe his value goes up. Maybe they'll offer that 1 million. I don't know. I have no idea where the board's drawing the line, but even I might accept $1 million. Here's our first look at the new intake, and it's a mixed bag here. There's actually quite a few players that need to go away. Need to go away immediately. One good sign about this group is the entire intake is 15 years of age, with only one 16-year-old, so they're a little bit younger, giving us more time for them in the U19s, more time to develop, more time to make an impact. Of course, we are stuck without that reserves, and it really hurts. Unless they can come into the senior squad and make an impact, they really do seem to stall out. I send them on loan to other teams, and they don't come back to us drastically improved. So loans haven't done much for us. We have no reserve team, so we can't get them to continue playing. They seem to do well at the U19s. They still develop there, but once they hit the senior squad, unless they are ready, we just struggle to get guys going. But there's quite a few to eliminate. A 35-62, a 42-43 is already as good as he's going to get. 35-75, 35-63 are all going to be gone. Let me take a few off this list real quick. And just like that, we've brought it down to 8 players in the intake. A goalkeeper who doesn't have the greatest potential and definitely does not have a great current ability. I think I actually might be letting him go as well, as we do have much better options. And look at the development here of Karsten Zahl-Wolf from last season, now 17. He has a 61 current ability, meaning he actually might, and Spencer Mason making progress as well. We might actually finally have some goalkeepers coming through the pipeline that are developing to the point that they could have an impact, that they could be a part of our senior squad. Goalkeeper development has been a real problem throughout this series. Moen, very, very slow to progress. With that one more elimination, that means we have 7 intake players for this year that we have held on to. With just 2 players in the 80s and 2 players in the 90s on potential ability, this is a 100-plus youth squad across the board. And then in terms of current ability, they all range from a 43 to now a handful of players pushing into the 60s down here. Christian Hole is the one who looks to be the most ready and may earn himself a promotion into the senior squad either immediately or partway into this season, with a 67 already, plus the excessively high, looks like highest on the U19s. Yes, highest on the U19s, 139 potential ability for Christian Hole. But looking at the training ratings, we're only a week into the preseason here, so these do tend to vary wildly from where they will be. But based on the low 6 that he has, might not necessarily be developing terribly fast training. And if we promote him, unless he were to immediately make an impact, it looks like his primary position would be defensive mid. And with that level of tackling, he might have good, strong mental attributes and good technique, but that's about it, right? He could distribute the ball well enough as a defensive midfielder, but he's not going to recover the ball, and he has no pace and no strength. And so, no, we're going to leave him stored away for another season here in the U19s. Hopefully he'll get up into, mid-70s to where we can then call him up and use, his few excessive talents combined with more moderate talents, and to then get into the side and hash out those weaknesses that he might have at the moment. But Wolf looks good. A goalkeeper near the top of the list is something we have not seen ever in this series. So, yeah, how does that compare with the senior squad, though? Now, that 67 would fall down here with Minkowitz, and that's one reason to keep Hole stashed away a bit longer. Is he's maybe good enough to make the bench, but he's definitely not good enough to become an impact player yet, in particular with Janssen, who is our defensive mid and is an 88 and is right near the top of the list. And we already have some backups in Hermansen at a 70, in Fawoli at a 71, in that defensive mid, he would be kind of rotting away, and we would just have to send him out on loan. Might as well give him the experience where he is developing, as I was already mentioning. Our U19 seem to be developing more nicely these days than they are when they go out on loan. For the most part, we've had very, very few players come back developing at that level. Now, senior squad, I'm down to just a few names that are in the 40s at all. So 50 plus is really necessary to kind of belong in the side whatsoever. A couple 48s are right on that verge, but Christopher Al, if he wouldn't put in the quality performances that he does, and if he didn't have kind of a lack of options for right mid up and down the roster a bit, Christopher Al would already be gone, because he hasn't developed at all. I think he was actually a 49 when he was the starter. When he lost the job, he dropped a couple points, and he's settled at a 48 with no change. So even though he might have a 118 potential at 24 years of age, you can see him and Jakobsen are the low mid on the totem pole, the below 60s, which for me, that's kind of my threshold now to get into the side, is about a 60 plus. We have a few players that have aged up in Heisted, in Lihaug, in Schmelly, and I think Verstveit had already. He's out on loan already, so is a goalkeeper. We'd like to see goalkeepers develop. Moen, there is Moen at a 68, so not far above that youth player, that 17-year-old who could come in and compete against Moen, because Moen does not train well. He's done decently. He's got 142 starts. I think most of those have been with us. He might have spent a year out on loan, but Witchney certainly hasn't done much development of his own, though he was admittedly in the high 50s, I think, or sorry, 40s, 48, 49, so he might have made a tiny amount of development, but I think it's quite clear who our top two guys are going to be going forward at the goalkeeper position. But Oleberg, now to 79 out of his 130. That 130, I think, is what's getting all the attention. He has a bit more potential than these other guys around him. And while his development hasn't been rapid by any means, you figure with that kind of rating over the other guys around him. But again, we're 1 week into our training, right? Fawoli is training really well, but that's not going to go anywhere. He's a 71 out of 77. Anyway, the fact he is the lowest potential player on the entire roster, but he's also the one who, out of all these seasons, came in closest to his max potential right off the bat, straight out of the youth team. He came in at, I think, a 70 out of 77 or a 69 out of 77, and has been kind of stuck on this 71 ever since. Which is sad. There's a little potential left in there that we just can't seem to unlock. He's somebody who trains well, he plays well, he gets tons of playing time, and can't extract that little bit more out of his potential, which would be really nice. I like Fawoli, but it'd be nice if we could find that a little bit more. So far, Knudsen is the only player that I have eliminated, so we have 7 new faces, we have 1 out. So there are still upwards of about 6 that need eliminating. I think Christopher Al could be the one to go, because we do seem to have more options now than we had before. Many of you have talked about Jakobsen maybe playing on the right. Could be better than Christopher Al. Heisted, who just came up, is a 66. I think you need to make a comparison there. But Holmdale, in many regards, is much better than Jonas Gay already. But he's also much better than Lovas in every category except attacking. But Mankiewicz can play on the right side. Heisted, I have 3 or 4 options now that I do not think we need to hang on to Christopher Al any longer. So there's the first victim. We're going to get rid of Christopher Al. Harstad now at 22. If Lee Haug is better, because center back's been a real problem for us. If Lee Haug is better, then Harstad's going to be gone as well, because he has stalled out for ages, does not train well. It'd be nice to get rid of the worst of the worst when it comes to training and development, and the guys who go absolutely nowhere regardless of potential. Yeah, get them out of here, save the salary, and save a few roster spots, and allow our guys to train a little more efficiently with fewer faces splitting time with the coaches. Well, we got up to 200,000 in offers for Janssen. That seems unlikely at this point, as we're just a couple hours away from midnight in the transfer deadline. But just before the transfer deadline, the offers for Oleberg, which seem to have dried up over the last week and a half, yeah, they came back on transfer deadline day, deciding they really wanted him and up the offers quite a bit, and it's happened. Mulde have signed Oleberg 575,000 immediately. Eventually could rise to 650,000, at least loaned back for the seasons. We'll get him this year. We will need to replace Oleberg come next season, so that's going to hurt our growth a little bit, but 500,000 certainly will help with our growth. By the way, I finally got the board to accept one thing. It was a very minor thing, and that was myself, the coach, the manager, getting the next coaching badge, which is our first international coaching badge. So finally getting out of the national ranks and into the international badges. Well, it's terribly unfortunate, because here is the message. We were offered Oleberg to be loaned back for the season. His agent indicated that he would be interested in finishing the season out with the team. I certainly was interested, but I was not given a confirmation. I was not given an option to confirm the loan back for the season, and he's not here, and the transfer deadline has now passed. So Oleberg is unfortunately gone immediately. Not a nice bug to have experienced, as we just lost a very solid central midfielder. I think we are still in position to cruise through the season, as we do have some depth in the center of midfield. But it does hurt a little bit on our progress, outside of the financials of it, of course. But it would have been nice to have one more year with him, with us, before losing him. I was hoping that with the continued development, we'd finally be beyond last place in terms of selection this season. That didn't happen, especially now that Oleberg is gone. We have fallen off a little bit. I think we're actually right back where we were last season, which is a 33-1 odds on promotion, which isn't the worst ever odds on promotion, meaning the league is pretty competitive. Start is the favorite to win the league, and that is actually who we opened the season with. And then Ranheim and Bryn, who were relegated, are favored to yo-yo and go right back up. Sandefjord, Jandalen, Ilsund, and Asker are all looking pretty dang competitive. Fredrikstad is almost identical, 7.5-1 odds compared to Asker. And then you start to see a little bit of fall off to tier 2 with Grorud, Raufoss, Strawman, newcomer, newly promoted Hod, who we haven't seen before. I think they were the other division when we were there. And then finally ourselves. But of course, Rosenborg 2, Braun 2, and Valerenga 2 cannot be promoted, therefore have no odds. We're still nowhere when it comes to the Media Dream 11. And it's Andreasen and Jonas Gay who make the list of key players in the league. They're not at the bottom of the list, but they're nowhere near the top either. They're kind of in the middle, and I think that's a sign that we are getting closer and closer as we've pushed up into the upper 80s on players. But of course, we just lost one of those guys in the upper 80s, so we have a little bit of rebuilding to do. But that extra cash will absolutely help our project. In fact, maybe it's time that I take another quick moment and pressure the board once again. Now that we have this extra influx, it's been a day. Let's make sure it's actually in. It's in installments, apparently. Our balance is only up 200,000 from where it was. Yeah, 247K. That is definitely not all of the upfront money. Gee, isn't it amazing? 600,000, and yet he's already instantly worth 2 million the day after he's been sold. Cost so far does say 575,000. But from the looks of our balance sheet, I think the board might have taken some of that money for themselves, as we've only seen half of that come into the actual club coffers. So the board have very selfishly taken about $250,000 for themselves. This is a publicly owned club, so they just paid themselves some money. Even though we're $250,000 shy of the money we should have in the bank right now, I still felt compelled to talk to the board. Let's see if we can compel the board to upgrade the training facilities, as they initially denied it, even though they've already acknowledged that the finances are okay. Another instant denial. Really not impressed with the board of late. Now that we even have money, they still refuse to do anything. We don't have a ton of money, though, so I know another year or two of added funds will help our situation a bit in this department. We're not quite there yet, but I mean, come on, we have 20 on the determination. It shouldn't be this hard to convince the board of something such as this. And with training facilities at a level 3, it's not like we're trying to get them up to level 20 or something. You know, we're trying to get them to level 5 or level 6 maybe. We can actually see some players progress. Some more players progress. Some players progress better than before. Get multiple guys above 100 instead of a single player all time in the history of the club. Season opened with a massive win on the road at start. We led 2-0. They got a consolation goal in the 70th minute to make it interesting. But my, what a fantastic performance to open the season. Then, at home, Ralphus, a team we struggled against the last couple of years, we managed to actually get a victory against them. 11th minute goal, 1-0, just enough to hang on and get the job done. You can see, based on the ratings, we probably should have even gotten more out of that game than we did. Braun 2, yeah, a bit too much for us, as they took control. Back-to-back goals a minute apart, and then a third one late on. Janssen, minor injury in that day. Defense really struggling. Midfield didn't quite control it, but it looks like they kept us in the game. And then we had the Cup third round against a weaker opponent. Somebody sent off early, and yet somehow we barely pulled out the victory on that one. Really poor performance there. And then a difficult road game. Fredrikstad, we had the 0-0 game locked up. Game should have been done. Andreasen gets injured. And then a 94th minute penalty, stoppage time penalty, to give all 3 points to Fredrikstad feels incredibly harsh. But not a bad start to the season. 2 wins, 2 losses in the league. We've had tough opposition. We have not had an easy game yet. So the easier games are coming. You take that. You take that. It's worth 7th place thus far. We're into the 4th round. Kristiansund, certainly a winnable one there. We're at home for that one. First time, 2 years ago, we had some nice draws, and we got really deep in the cup. So far this year, we've had a couple nice draws. Let's see if that can help us get deeper into the cup this time around as well. But otherwise, let's just keep right on pushing. The goal, the objective this season is to fly through as long as there is no reason to stop. So let's not only push forward a month, let's push forward about a month and a half. The last stretch is worrying as we lost 1-0 to Straumen on the road, but they're actually pretty good this year. They are much higher up the table than they've been the last couple of years. Vålerenga 2 is right near the top as well, and so though we were at home, they beat us 2-0, and only one of those goals came in the final minutes, and our ratings weren't that bad, but they were definitely the better team. Fourth round cup, comfortable. Finally, we get a win against Hod, 3-0. That was comfortable. But then we go on the road to Grorud, who is a fairly good team. We were competitive, multiple players at 7.0 and beyond, but we lose 1-0. And then Bryn, who's right near the top of the league, even though we were at home. So all of our home games have been against the top sides. Our road games have been against essentially the mid-table sides, and we haven't really played the bottom-end sides with the exception of Hod, who we took care of quite comfortably. Raufoss is struggling right now near the bottom, so we did, I suppose, play them, but they were very much upper mid last season, so I think they might be struggling from form more than anything else at this stage. But that's only 3 league wins. 5 wins in all competitions, but it is worrying. The easiest games of the first half, though, are still ahead of us at least, so hopefully we'll bounce back and get a few more wins, a little bit better performance. We are going to need it at the moment because we are only 2 points clear of the drop currently, though you figure, we're just a couple good games away from being upper mid-table. But we are missing Uleberg, so how is the team actually performing through these 9 games? Where are our struggles? Bergum, 8 goals in all competitions so far, 4 assists as well. Andreasen contributing well with 3 goals and 2 assists himself. I have moved Jonaske into the middle, so he has replaced Uleberg, and Holmdale has become the starter, at least in my eyes. It looks like he really has not been getting much selection, has he? No, he is not. So the AI manager is not picking him up hardly at all. He's only had 2 starts, 5 appearances off the bench. That's disappointing, as I think he's capable of much more than he's been given. Lavas is having a really rough go. I mean, he's had 9 matches and we've played 11. So he's started all but 2 matches in all competitions so far. He has 0 goals in the league and just 1 assist. And he got 1 goal against some weaker opposition in the cup. And that's all he's managed so far. His rating is still somehow 7.06 in the league. So he is still managing to contribute somehow for the team. But his finishing is just not there. And he's a poacher by trade that we have playing in an advanced forward role, but he's the advanced forward. He's the one we want finishing a lot of the time, or at least picking up numerous assists by making that extra late pass to Bergum. And Bergum converts those, but he's only had 1 assist, so it's not like he's getting a bunch, and he is spending most of the time playing that role on top. Very worrying that we are lacking from that front, that Lovas is just struggling, and he's got a minor injury at the moment. On the back of 4 straight losses, including a Cup 5th round loss against Tromsø, so that knocked us out, but 5th round is good. We finally got a point against Rosenborg. And that came on a 5th minute of stoppage time equalizer, so huge on that. We came from behind twice in that game to draw level and get a point against a good Rosenborg side. Well, maybe. Is Rosenborg one of the top sides or one of the bottom sides? I'll have to check the standings here in a moment. Mjøndalen, 14th minute, totally dominated the game but only had 1 goal. Finally, we open up against a fairly good Ailsund side and beat them on the road 3-1. After trailing early in that one. Ranheim, I think they're league leaders or thereabouts, so they're good, and that hurt. An 82nd minute consolation goal was followed up a minute later by Fawoli getting a second yellow. But then we do beat Sandefjord at home, and so winning 3 out of the last 4, getting 10 points in the last 5 was a huge boost to a season that's definitely been a bit of a struggle. With what's left, Ralphus is next, so that should be fairly winnable. Start is not as good as they normally are, but we've got a league that in all is pretty good this season. So with 15 played, which is now exactly half of our season behind us, we are 10th place, which is certainly not great, but we are definitely opening a little bit of a gap behind us, 8 points clear of Rosenborg. So yeah, they are actually at the back end. It's Hod, it's Ralphus, it's Rosenborg, it's Straumen, it's Mjøndalen, and Grorud. And we have not been perfect against this group by any means. Yeah, it's this middle group that we're getting some results on. It's this top group that we're getting 0 points against. So we are still some ways off the top end. This, unlike previous leagues, is not very balanced. There's the top end that is much stronger than the bottom end of the league. And unlike some previous years, I mean, we're looking at a relegation zone, at least in a couple of the cases, that are well below a point per game. Even Straumen, 11 from 14. We find ourselves not much better than a point a game, but better. On rate for 38 for the season would be a little bit less than what we had a season ago, but definitely more than what we had the season before. We are missing Ola Berg. I am not playing any games firsthand. It's all been done through the assistant manager, and they definitely don't perform as well as I do. So that all makes a bit of sense. Plus Lavas's struggle means less goals. That all makes a bit of sense as well. Let's go ahead and get into the second half and continue on. We're at least mid-table, and that's what we need. Having just finished our coaching qualification, we now have a Continental C license. Let's see how that has impacted our development. Determination, discipline, management, all at 20s, motivating at 19. That was all there already. We have not been an attacking coach for quite some time. We've been defensive/tactical, so it makes sense that that's where we're at. Working with youngsters is now at a 20. It was definitely not there before. Tactical has climbed up a little bit, but I don't feel like we made much of a gain here. I think one of these was a 10 or 11 last time I checked, but I haven't checked in over a year. It's been a while. We play our role, but it's been about the players for this series and not about myself as manager. We're okay-ish now. I mean, we have obviously 5 good attributes and a few tolerable ones. 2 of the first 3 months of the season were really poor, and we struggled, and we were near the bottom of the league. We were just outside of the relegation zone, but the last 3 months have been fantastic. All 3 of them. 3 from 4 in July. We got 3 from 5 in August, but managed to draw the other 2, so we went without a loss that entire stretch. And then we get 3 from 4 in September, at least, 2 wins from 4 anyway, plus a draw. We won both home games. We got a draw on the road against Hod, which, I mean, yeah, maybe we should have done better against Hod, but we were on the road. And the only loss was Bryn, who's right near the top of the league. And that's been our only loss in actually quite a while. Ranheim was the other previous loss, and you have to go all the way back to that 5th round exit from the Cup in June, middle June. 1 point behind start means we've got a chance to overtake them. And 5 points separating us from Asker and Fredrikstad might be a little too far back, especially with that goal differential that they have, but it's definitely not far back. It's awfully close. Our final tally for last season was 44 points, and it was 38 the year before. So we have already surpassed season 1 with 40, and we need just 4 points to match last season. Our oldest player is Melvin Jakobsen, who turned 30 in May. Progress does continue, and it is Homedale who is now the team's best player, and it is Homedale who can hardly even get a go in the squad. But it looks like he has, here during the second half of the season, been given a bit of a chance. It looks like somebody who, only had 2 starts and 5 appearances off the bench in the first half is now a regular. 13 starts, that's 11 more, plus an additional 4 appearances off the bench. Both Janssen and Andreasen have also climbed up to a 90 in their current ability, so that's 3 players. We started the season with 0. All of these guys were mid to upper 80s. Jonas Gay still at 89, but he's right on that edge too. I'm really impressed with the development, at least of the top, quartet or so. But the rest of the team, it's just not really there. Ferris Veit is one of the only noticeable improvements I've seen outside of those guys at the top. Everybody else looks to be right about where they were. Ferris Veit was, I think, a 41, 42 at the start of the season. So not massive progress, but progress. Voss, Merbakken, Zalwolf all progressing this season. Rossler as well, it looks like. Yeah, there was only 2 to 3 players at the start of the season that were 60 plus. And there's quite a few now. And there's a lot of upper 50s. I mean, that's 58 all the way down to Dubois. So we only managed to win 3 out of the final 5 games of the season, and both losses were at home. So just after I praised the team for winning all their home games, we win all of our road games, the final 3 games of the season, or the final 5 of the season, and lose both home games down the stretch. But it was Ailsund and Ranheim, so that actually makes a certain amount of sense that we beat the bottom table sides all by a single goal and then lose to the 2 top end sides regardless of where it is that we played. That is enough to give us 49 points. That is 5 more than a season ago, and that is with me managing exactly 0 games along the way. We keep that +1 goal differential, so where we've been fairly close, that's that slight climb this season. If we add 5 more points next season, we are right there in the promotion playoff hunt. But it's clear, it is very, very clear that Ranheim, Brynn, Vålerenga, Fredrikstad are all still a notch above us. We are definitely not on their level. We were losing those games 3-0, 4-0, 2-0. Pretty dang comfortable. 3-1 was a good game for us against one of those top sides. So that means even though we have progressed and we've made it into the mid-table group and, tactically the team's fine and Bergam had 16 goals and, things were good, we're still some ways off. And we have no idea what's going to happen in the coming season with who's the next player that they're going to try to take away from us. We just lost Uleberg this season. Who's it going to be this coming season? Homedale seems like a likely candidate. He's just hit 18. His current ability is closing in on 100. He's still got quite a bit of potential ahead of him. And, looking at the top end side of the team, he's not only the best player right now, but he's the best player in terms of potential. I would think he's the likely candidate for somebody to come along. The only good news for us on that matter is that Homedale has never been a regular in the side. He forced his way into the lineup for the assistant manager this year, but he was under constant rotation, replacing Bergam, replacing Lovas, replacing Jonas Gay, in the mix somehow, some way. He got better and better as the season went on, though, so it would suck to lose him, but it wouldn't hurt too bad as, we're not necessarily losing a particular key piece, such as, same with Modeste, right? Or Andreasen, if it was to be one of them. For one, Andreasen is just about as good as he's ever going to get. His training rating fell off because he's kind of hit his max. though he did somehow go from an 88 or 89 to a 90 this season, but he's inching his way towards, his maximum. It'd be nice to see Bergam get another 10-15 credibility points. Others seem to be progressing nicely enough, and Bergam just hasn't made much progress, and he's trading so well and playing so well. His XG approaching 17, goals 19. What a fantastic player. I actually don't necessarily mind him staying where he's at, so that way other teams don't give us big offers to get him. The other player that I worry that we might lose this season is Janssen. The only good thing about losing Janssen is that I have plenty of defensive mids, but none of them are anywhere near as good as he is. So it would hurt. It would take a bit to replace him. But we've definitely seen some progress in, 4, 5, 6 players this season. I really hope with some additional money coming into next year that we can finally turn that into improved training facilities or reaching professional status. Either of those two things will see this team reach the next level. But until one, if not both of those two things happen, I don't see us progressing to the next level. We are still too far below the mark, still too far below the standard necessary. But we've done it. We've flown through a single season in one episode. It's also taken me 7 hours to do that. So this is going to be the only episode this week as a result. I'll see you next week as we presumably do another entire episode for one entire season. For the moment, that's about what we can manage, because 7 hours is, almost a whole day worth of work for me. That's going to do it for this one, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.